Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis here in the host chair. Be joined by Connor Hrabchak in a second. It's a hot one out there. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Hope everyone had a great time at whatever activity you're doing. I know 22,000 people at the first stadium, Princess Auto Stadium concert in Winnipeg since 2017 at the Rockin' Thunder with Def Leppard, among other bands. And tonight is the Country Thunder, and they're putting out the advisory, stay hydrated. The Gold Eyes last night, walk-off win, Assiniboia Downs. I went 0 on my picks. Gonna have to make Hustler catch up to me on the bets when he returns. So a lot going on here in the city. Folk Fest this weekend. I talked to Murat on the show yesterday. He will be there taking the Fred Penner set. So first off, shout out to all the sponsors who make this show happen. Without them, I would not be here doing this show right now. So Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Fans First, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and Coolbet. And just want to give an announcement about Hustler. So he was at Aikens Lake yesterday. He told me the winds picked up, spreading the fires. And he said the amazing staff at Aikens Lake were able to get them out safely. He is in the city. These pictures look very scary. Pretty incredible, colors and everything, but very scary to be a part of. I'm sure he was evacuated out. So we were thinking of Pitt and Julie and the staff at Aikens Lake and everyone who's being affected by these wildfires that seem to be non-stop. So some scary videos out there on social media, but we are back right now with Connor Hrabchak. He's returned. He was in Toronto taking in the Coldplay concert at the brand new Rogers Stadium. Connor, what's going on? How was the concert? How were the days off?
They were awesome. Yeah, the concert was incredible. I mean, Coldplay is the type of band where people will say, you don't even have to like them to go to a concert and just kind of enjoy the show. Good thing for me and my group, we really like Coldplay as is. So to see them live, we got really good weather too. I'm looking at the weather here in Winnipeg. It's super hot and a risk of thunderstorms tonight with this outdoor concert. So that could have been the case as well. And to travel to Toronto and get good weather and see Coldplay, which has always been on my kind of concert bucket list, was truly, truly awesome. So I enjoyed my days off. You're killing it as always, Remo, doing both the hosting and running the show behind the scenes here. But I'm glad to be back talking some Winnipeg sports.
Well, yeah, nice having you back here. It's been an interesting week. We're a week out of free agency for NHL. We've spent a couple days talking about Jonathan Toews, the introductory press conference, Nikolai Ehlers leaving for Carolina. But I know you and Schnitzy have some Bomber content, and they're currently on the bye. Haven't really had a chance to talk to you. What do you think of the Bombers here, losing in the Stampede Bowl, the iconic Stampede Bowl on Thursday, and now sitting at 3-1 as Week 6 starts tomorrow?
Every time there's a trophy at play these last couple of years, Remo, it's not going to work for the Bombers. I don't know. But yeah, super excited to start WST Bombers Report next week, this upcoming Monday with Schnitzy. So next Monday, we're going to do a full kind of synopsis of the first 4 games of the year for the Bombers. 3-1 is a much better spot to be in than 0-4. But yeah, that last game was rough against Calgary. And I'm looking forward to this game Friday night. Calgary going into Saskatchewan. Calgary's a team, going back not that far, Remis, the preseason odds for Grey Cup champion, they were the longest shot by far, Calgary. So the books were low on the Stamps coming into the season, and they've started out pretty strong and absolutely took it to the Bombers. They're coming off the bye. And then I am so excited for the next Bombers game next Friday at home with a chance for revenge against the same Calgary Stampeders that just punched the Bombers in the mouth a week ago. giving the Bombers a chance to, rest on the bye and fully prepare for this game is going to make for an awesome night at Princess Auto Stadium. So I'm looking forward to the next game, and stay tuned, everyone, for WST Bombers Report with me and Schnitzy, doing a full breakdown of the first 4 games of the season and a preview of that upcoming game.
Yeah, 90s night for that Bomber game against Calgary. Almost sold out. I'm sure it will get there next week as we count down and people, are getting FOMO saying, hey, I got to get to this game. Games have all been sold out this year. And yes, more CFL discussion coming with you. And if you missed it earlier this week, Jeff Hamilton joined me for CFL 110. I filled in for Hustler on that, talking about all the stories. And I didn't even mention the great guests we have coming up on this show. Marshall Ferguson of TSN joining me, shortly, in this hour, talking about the Bombers at the bye, week 5. Last week, he called that crazy game between Hamilton and Toronto. And week 6, he's calling Hamilton and Ottawa. We also touched on the standings and the other games. And Brandon Rewucki will talk about NHL offseason and the Jets as well. And Jake Bolin, Moss, or Pat, one of the guys from Coolbet, will go over the lines and talk Jays as the win streak was snapped yesterday. Connor, one story that we haven't really touched on this week was Gavin McKenna, projected 2026 number 1 overall pick. The big news was, where is he going to be playing for the 25-26 season? Would he be, was known he would be going to play NCAA, was deciding between Penn State and Michigan, and Daily Faceoff reporting that, because of NIL rules now, he's going to be making, he's expected to be making $700,000 at going to Penn State. What did you think of that, and what could it mean for CHL hockey and their ability to attract top talent?
Yeah, you've kind of seen this over the last couple of years, Remis. So I don't think it's that big of a shift where more and more players are going to NCAA to play in, a bit of a shorter season, maybe against better competition. That's up for debate. But Gavin McKenna making like NHL minimum contract salary to play in college for Penn State is ridiculous. It's what NIL was meant for, was to make sure that these players could be compensated. And boy, oh boy, he's making a pretty penny for his draft year. As everyone knows, he's going to be going number 1. He's the type where, when Connor Bedard was going number 1, everyone knew he was going number 1. Gavin McKenna will be the number 1 overall pick next season, barring something absolutely crazy. And I don't know, I think I'll be tuning into a few Penn State games this year just to see how that kind of dynamic works out. I mean, college hockey is always fun. I'm always watching the Frozen Four every year, but to see Gavin McKenna on Penn State, going up against some of the other, great colleges, Denver, North Dakota in the playoffs and things like that, will be really fun to watch. But that number absolutely shocked me, Remis. I don't know why. I mean, you see college football players that are committing and they're getting like millions. But to see a college hockey player making basically NHL minimum salary was just kind of came with some sticker shock for me. I don't know what you thought of that one.
Yeah, I think, we saw Connor Bedard, he was the top player playing in WHL Regina, and you wonder what it's going to mean for these CHL teams. They're going to be able to keep the top talent, or they're going to be losing players to NCAA. I think good for the players who are going to earn income, but I'll have to see the trickle down here in terms for players leaving. And if, you're seeing some CHL teams maybe upgrading facilities and stuff like that to make them more appealing. I think this is certainly an outlier contract for hockey, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what it means going forward. And as far as NCAA, we'll have our eye on Boston, our new favorite team since the Winnipeg Jets drafted Sasha Boumediene with their first round selection. Well, what was it, like a couple weeks ago? My lights finally turned on. Got a broken light bulb here. Connor, we're sitting around waiting for NHL arbitration hearings. We saw over the weekend that Samberg, Velarde, Barron all filed, and we're looking at timeline here. Usually the arbitration dates are around July 30 or late July, early August. And I was looking, it was 2 years ago. Morgan Barron had an arbitration hearing set for August 2nd, 2023, and signed July 17 of that year. So I think you have to wait till these hearings are going to be set before, anything really happens as a push pressure to, make a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had Murat Atesh on the program, and Murat asked Kevin Cheveldayoff about this at the Jonathan Taves introductory press conference. The players filing for arbitration just sets a deadline. It's nothing to worry about quite yet. It makes them ineligible for offer sheets as well, which from a Winnipeg Jets perspective, they shouldn't really be worried about offer sheets. They have over $19 million, almost $20 million in cap space with 3 prominent RFAs to sign in Barron, Velarde, and Sandberg. So any offer sheet, the Jets would just match unless some team wildly overpaid for one of those 3 players. They have the money to match. They would match. That was never really a concern when it came to those 3 players. But I will say this isn't something to worry about quite yet. I did see the other day on 32 Thoughts that Elliot Freeman said that he was told Dylan Sandberg, is open to signing long-term in Winnipeg. And he was told by some people that contract wouldn't be an issue to get done. Again, it's July 10th, and you see RFAs across the league getting signed. I have no doubt in my mind that Dylan Sandberg will sign long-term, but how many days have to go by until we start, thinking about, okay, what's going on here with arbitration just around the corner? I have confidence that the Jets will bring back all 3 of these players. They have the money to do so, and I think they'll avoid arbitration on all 3. It's just a matter of filing so that it creates a deadline, and I don't think the Jets or the players or the fans should be worried about heading to arbitration quite yet.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens there, how that goes. And we're also waiting on the schedule coming out next Wednesday. The Manitoba Moose schedule just released, at 1 o'clock. They're opening the season Friday, October 10. So maybe if you put the Moose schedule on a calendar, you could try and guess the Jets schedule. But we're not gonna do that.
We could.
We're not going to do that. There's one, thing, Connor, about what was it? The NHL. You sent this to me. Now that the dust has settled on free agency, which teams missed the playoffs last year will get back in 25-26. Everyone working to improve in free agency, but I don't know if you have any bold predictions here as we enter into the offseason.
I don't know if, I have any bold ones that I'll make right now, but I will say last year, full transparency, I picked Utah to make the playoffs. I'm going to go right back to it this year. I think, maybe Minnesota would be the team that I'd pick to fall out of the Western Conference playoffs for Utah to come in. But they're such a fun, young, and up-and-coming team that I think I'm just going to keep picking them to make the playoffs until they eventually make it. But the addition of JJ Peterka, I think, is a big one for them. And then also their back end. A lot of their key players on the back end missed time last year. Marino missed time. Dursey missed a couple of months. Sergachev came into the year hurt and missed a couple of months. So I think if they can, get some better luck in terms of health on their defense core, and then their young forward core can kind of mesh together and play that kind of fun off the rush style, and they can get some decent goaltending, I could see them being a threat in the Central. And they have some of the best winger depth in the West after adding JJ Peterka. They have Keller, they have Gunther, they have Peterka. They're a really fun team to watch. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. They've got that sweet new logo and the sweet new home jersey. So I think I'll be watching a lot more Utah games this year. And in the West, they're the team I'm looking that missed last year that I think will make it. In the East, it's a lot tougher. I don't have faith in any of the teams that missed in the East. I don't know about you, Remis, but maybe the Rangers bouncing back. I don't know.
We should record this and we'll revisit it in April. And these are the teams that did not make the playoffs last season. Who will get in next year? I'll start with the ones that are for sure not making it. I'll start in the West. San Jose, no. Chicago, no. You can cross those teams off. Anaheim, no. Calgary was pretty close last year. I don't know if they did anything to upgrade their roster. And Nashville was nowhere close as well. Vancouver, I think, could be. Seattle, I'm going to say no. I don't think they've made any meaningful additions. Utah certainly would. So I agree that Utah would be the favorite. In the East, Islanders rebuilding, so no. Philadelphia rebuilding, no. Buffalo and Boston, I'm going to say no to both of those. Detroit, no. I think Columbus would probably be the one. They were really close. It was a tough year for them. They seem to be building something there. So I'll go with Columbus, and I'll agree with you on Utah. How's that?
Nice. Some July 10th predictions. I like it. Looking ahead.
Very early.
Way too early predictions.
Way too, because I think Montreal, they're improving. Ottawa is certainly improving as well. So those are the picks for us there. Connor, it is summer here in Winnipeg. I have been asking all of our local guests this week, your favorite Winnipeg, Manitoba summer activity. I talked with John Hodge. He voted Rainbow Stage. I thought that was a pretty good one. Trevor Curl of the Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, Bomber games. Drew Mandel was a big fan of heading out to Clear Lake. Yep. And I talked with Mark Arndt about the tennis tournament happening this week. There's many different festivals, events. Folk Fest weekend. Murat is heading to that. What's on your power poll here for Winnipeg or Manitoba summer activities?
First for events, I mean, you got to throw in Bomber games. Like every single game is selling out now. Princess Auto Stadium. The Bombers are good. They win like all their home games. And it's an absolute blast. So you got to throw them in there. The Gold Eyes, our WST Gold Eyes night, Remis, was so much fun. Ate some great food out there. The Sea Bears have been a great summer events addition to the Winnipeg sports scene. Outside of like actual events, my family, as you know, are big campers. We love camping at Winnipeg Beach, Falcon Lake. There are some incredible campgrounds here in the province of Manitoba that we take part in. So that would be absolutely number one on my power poll for Manitoba summer events. I know not everyone camps, so that can't apply to everyone. But for actual events, you got to throw all the sporting events in there because we have some great ones here in the summer.
Yeah, shout out to Victory Lane Speedway. Rick Delane has been rocking the WST logo. I know Tico Napoli in the comments, he takes his car out to Gimli at the track there. Again, I see some people in chat shouting out Dan Jets fan, big fan of Clear Lake Riding Mountain, the only national park you can visit in Manitoba. And then who else is the other one? I see someone else in chat. Oh, Wet and Wild. Jay Miller. I have it highlighted. He's got Wet and Wild. Not around anymore, but shout out to the old days. We could go to a outdoor water slide park in Manitoba. Nice. Connor, it's CFL this week. Is there a game that you're looking forward to? Calgary, Saskatchewan Friday, Ottawa, Hamilton Saturday, BC, Edmonton Sunday. Marshall Ferguson will be joining me very shortly as we touch on around the league, but I want to hear what you thought of the CFL as we have the Bombers bye week.
Yeah, the Edmonton Elks are red hot at home, Remis. Don't let them get hot. Now they've got another home game here against BC. That'll be interesting to see them try and follow up, their first home win of the season and what seems like one of their couple home wins of like the past decade, it feels like. But I am very, very interested in that Calgary Saskatchewan game on Friday night for a lot of reasons. First, Calgary, like I said, was a team that was kind of written off going into the season, and they've, come out of the gates firing. I mean, we all watched that Bomber game last week and just watch them dominate in all three phases. They have Vernon Adams at quarterback, and we know that he's, a stud and a proven, producer in this league, but their defense was incredible with 2 pick sixes against Zack Collaros, and their special teams made plays as well. So Calgary is a team that I don't know. Like, I don't really know what to think about them. Are they an early season, pretender? This going on the road in Saskatchewan, who's still undefeated at the time of this recording and going into that game, is going to be a really interesting one. So that Friday night game, Calgary at Saskatchewan, I'm really looking forward to that one to see, if Calgary, if this is wearing off, if they're legit, Saskatchewan coming off the bye, undefeated, how do they look in front of their home crowd? And then can Edmonton keep up their red hot home winning streak against the BC Lions, who had that miraculous win? They had the brawl on the sideline last week, Remis, against Montreal as well. So BC is a weird one as well, because I think we all expected them to be a team where Nathan Rourke's putting up crazy numbers, but they're kind of scraping out games right now, winning 21-20 last week. So a lot of intrigue going into this week for me with the CFL, especially with that Friday night game and then the Sunday night game, the Elks and the Lions.
Yeah, all divisional matchups we're counting down here until the big rivalry with Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. That back-to-back could, tell the story of what happens in the division. But Calgary, they're pushing at 3-1. We want to see how they can follow up their Stampede Bowl win. And BC, I think we've expected a bit more from Nathan Rourke, but they are 2-3. Everyone's lurking in there. And could Edmonton string 2 wins together? In the East, Kenny Lawler, he's been the story, leading the league in receiving yards and touchdowns, and that Levi Mitchell connection looking pretty strong. And for the Bombers, Dalton Schoen left last game with injury. They're off this week, so don't really know what his status is, and we probably won't until they return to practice, whatever, it's Sunday or Monday. But Kenny, it was interesting last week. Kenny Lawler making plays and Janarian Grant continuing to make plays as Bombers, can't keep everyone. Got to let some players go for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And Kenny Lawler, a part of, the downside with him is, when he's playing, he's incredible. He's probably one of the best receivers in the CFL. And when he's on, he's unguardable. You can chuck it up to him and he's tall enough. He'll just pluck that ball out of the sky. But he only plays, 10 games, 11 games a season, often misses time due to injury. So we'll see if he can keep this up for a full season. But there's no denying that when he's healthy and when he's on, he's one of the best receivers in the league. And he kind of is proving that going from the Bombers to the Ticats, maybe, the class of the CFL and the Bombers, or at least the class of the West, going to a team that has struggled a little bit here and there the past couple of seasons and still continuing to produce. So really impressive stuff from Kenny Lawler. And one thing, Remis, that you asked me about my events when I was on the road, one thing I did miss was the legendary Kenny and Rennie. Speaking of Kenny's, the legendary Kenny and Rennie event. How was that? that? Yeah. I was so sad when he released the day for it. I was like, no, I'm gone. I was so sad to miss it.
I talked to Liz. She said you were devastated.
I was devastated.
When you couldn't.
Devastated.
But yeah, Kenny and Rennie, it's becoming a annual event, their year-end party. Great to see so many regular listeners, people coming up to me and chatting with other people. So I love it. Great food, great pizza, great seeing everyone. And they mentioned a special guest, and I couldn't believe that Mark Chipman showed up and hobnobbing with fans or chatting it up. People coming up, saying hi, taking pictures. There's Scott Oak there as well. So Kenny and Rennie bringing out the big guns, and it's an honor to get the invite to that kind of event. Connor, I know you were in Toronto, paying attention to everything. How about the Blue Jays win streak ending yesterday to the White Sox? Are you all in on the Blue Jays bandwagon here?
I'm all in. I've said this, I think, on this program a few times before. Baseball is kind of a throw it on in the background kind of thing for me. And, the past decade since 2015, the Jays haven't really given me any reason to do anything except just have them be on in the background. But what was it, a 10-game win streak? That'll do it. That'll get me actually tuning into the Jays. I love the Blue Jays in 30 show, Remis. Like, it's so great on Sportsnet. They have the 30-minute, recap of the game. It's so great. You get all the action that you need. And yeah, this team is like just winning in miraculous ways. The 4-game sweep of the Yankees was some of the most fun I've had watching the Blue Jays in a long time. Those games where, George Springer was hitting a home run every other game. They've had a few walk-offs here. They had a walk-off bunt against the Angels, like that's how you know you're red hot, if you're walking off games with a bunt. And yeah, they're winning games close. They're keeping games interesting, and they're winning them all. It's kind of the perfect storm to get someone like me extra interested in baseball. So the Blue Jays are a fun watch right now, and I'm definitely going to be tuning in here. I know the MLB All-Star break is coming up here next week with the Home Run Derby, which I love watching the Home Run Derby as well. That's must-see TV for me every year. I know some people hate it. People hate, certain skills competitions and stuff. But when it comes to the MLB Home Run Derby, I'm a big fan of that. And after that, I'll be tuning into Blue Jays games throughout the rest of the summer here for sure.
Yeah, the All-Star Game rosters are out. The Home Run Derby, they're coming out, the participants. Monday is the Home Run Derby, Monday night. So nice. Looking forward to that. Connor, it's been great talking with you. We'll chop it up again at the end of the show. We're going to chop it up later, but I'll throw on Huss, and then I'll be joined by Marshall Ferguson. Welcome back. Connor, great having you on the show.
Thanks, Remis. Talk to you in a bit.
Sorry, let me bring in Huss.
Let me shout out our pals at Rollies Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk, family owned and operated for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving.
Oh, bit of a technical difficulty there. One sec. Let me get the right read. Oops. Oh well. I'm gonna go this one. Okay, now we're good.
Let me shout out our pals at Rollies Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk, family owned and operated for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. If you and your family are on the move, head on over to rollies.com, click on request an estimate, put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And our friends at Rollies will turn it around real quick with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove service that Rollies is famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all of your moving needs, make it Rollies. Keep your eyes out for that WST truck on the road as well. Snap a pic if you see it. And, of course, rollies.com for all the information on that and your next move. A big thanks to St. Vital Dental Center for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. St. Vital Dental Center, full-service dental clinic led by our pal Dr. Terry James and his amazing staff that have been serving Winnipeggers and Manitobans for generations. But now they've got a beautiful new facility with state-of-the-art equipment at 167 St. Anne's with free parking right behind the building to take care of all your dental needs for patients from 6 months to 99 plus. If you need a dentist or it's been a minute since you've been there, find out more at stvitaldental.ca. Make an appointment and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Somewhat of a long weekend. I guess it's going to be a really long weekend. A lot of people are going to be taking Monday off. Canada Day on Tuesday. Not if you're in the hockey medias. We're going to be talking to Dave Pagnotta. But if you are planning for a weekend, head on down to your local Manitoba liquor marts. Of course, Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. If there's any Canadian club left in the city after the football game on Thursday, you'll be able to find it at Manitoba liquor marts. But take a look for the new club pack, CC and Ginger Ale, the CC Half and Half, and the Citrus Smash ready-to-drink cocktails. Unbelievable addition to the summer lineup. Pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And of course, Manitoba Battery powering us through another summer. They got the cars and trucks through the winter. Now they're helping Winnipeggers and Manitobans save big on their batteries for their campers, their boats, ATVs, Sea-Doos, all the fun stuff that we love to use during the summer. You got to have batteries for. And it is time to quote Ken Weeb. It's a bit of a wake-up call to everyone. Stop paying extra, up to $60 more at the big box stores than you'll get when you shop local at Manitoba Battery. Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, 2 locations to serve you. But they've also got free delivery anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Find out more in store today or order online at manitobabattery.com.
There's us. He will be back next week. I'm really pumped to be joined right now by Marshall Ferguson of TSN. He called last week's crazy game with Hamilton and Toronto. And this week he's got Ottawa and Hamilton. He's coming to Winnipeg a couple times here in August. So looking forward. So here he is, Marshall Ferguson. Marsh, how's it going? Thanks so much for taking the time to join me today here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, it's good to be on with you. I'm just grinding away right now. I've got Ottawa at Hamilton this week, so a nice little home game for me down the street, which I'm excited about. And I haven't even had the Redblacks yet. It's crazy. I used to joke with people that I was the national television voice of the Ottawa Redblacks because I had like 6 of their 8 or 10 games at some point early in last year. But yeah, it's nice to be prepping for a different team. It makes it a little bit more exciting when you haven't seen a team for a while or you haven't seen them yet this season. You kind of got to dive in and actually really find the interesting stuff, because when you're doing Hamilton and Toronto, every other week, at times it's like, yep, I've punched in the same stats 8 times by Labor Day kind of thing. So yeah, happy to be doing Ottawa Hamilton this week. Should be fun.
Yeah, CFL week 6. We got a bit thrown off by the weeks with the Bombers having that week 1 bye, and now a bye again this week, but all divisional matchups starting on Friday. Calgary at Saskatchewan, and then Ottawa at Hamilton, BC, Edmonton, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Bombers, they're on the bye, 3-1, coming off a pretty ugly loss to Calgary in the Stampede Bowl. What have you seen from the Bombers this year? I mean, 3-1, still a better start than they were this time last year.
Oh yeah, way better. I mean, it's and the thing is too, you have to take into account is that that's the inaugural Stampede Bowl, which again, I love games that mean nothing that we assign trophies to. I think it's awesome because it makes things feel like they matter more than they actually do. And the Calgary Stampeders were also coming off of the bye going into the inaugural Stampede Bowl, so you've got 2 major factors in that game I think that contributed to it. But yeah, they got outplayed obviously by Calgary in that one, but you are 3-1. Your offense is cooking. You do have Dalton showing up to speed this year. Your defense is flying around and making plays for the most part. Special teams are solid as ever under a Mike O'Shea coach team. So I like the way that they look early in the season, and I think realistic threat to finally take away the West from Winnipeg at this point, it's Saskatchewan, but we've said that at various points throughout the last couple of years. This is a long season, so we'll see how it all unfolds. Calgary, I think, can be a big-time player if they get healthier, specifically on defense. I think they're missing a couple of pieces that I really like. I mean, I called their week 1 game, and I saw kind of what that team is supposed to look like against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I was really impressed by it, even if Hamilton wasn't all that impressive in the early start of the season because they couldn't get much going offensively. But yeah, I think Winnipeg right now, kind of where they've been the last couple of years, it's like your consistency of play, your solid coaching, your sound and fundamental special teams units. You've got everything kind of going where it's been before. It doesn't feel, blow you out of the water like maybe back in 1921, maybe 22, where it's like, oh, they're unquestionably the best team in the West and who's going to stop Zack Collaros? But they're still, I think, the best team in the West at this point, even with Saskatchewan being what they are, which is a team that's very well-rounded, very well-built, very diverse on defense, that has the potential to be explosive offensively, although they like to play that kind of grinded-out style, it seems like, still at this point in the season. So Winnipeg is in a good spot. I still think they're in the driver's seat. They just might have one hand on the steering wheel instead of 2 like they've had in previous years.
Yeah, Saskatchewan's a team that's had hot starts the last couple of years, but not able to maintain that for the second half. We'll see how that plays out. And when the 2 teams meet, the Bombers and the Riders, for the Labor Day Classic and Banjo Bowl. What have you seen from Zack Collaros this year? It looked incredible in the win against Edmonton, but a few, rough throws really put the Bombers behind it in the Stampede Bowl against Calgary.
Yeah, Zack is, I think he's feeling out after the early season, missing that first game, and then watching from the sideline, getting up to speed, and the way that training camp has unfolded for him. I think he's been feeling out some of the different names, new places. I mean, it's for him to be going to Stearns as much as he is in this season and Wheatfall. I think that tells you that he's getting more and more comfortable with the variety of receivers around him, because in the past it's been like kind of what Bo Levi is doing right now, honestly, with Lawler, where it's like, I'm just going to lean on him. Or it's like, Schoen is my superstar rookie in his first year. I'm just going to lean on him. I think Zack's spreading the football around a little bit more, but also I don't think you can understate, and we always do this with offensive line when it comes to your star running back being out, the amount of comfort that there is, and Zack would never say this, because he's played for so long and he's such a veteran. He's a good presence in the room, and he's never going to be like, well, I don't trust Matthew Paterson. I'm sure he does. There's just a different vibe when you're standing in the backfield, though. You break the huddle and you've called, 2nd and 8, a pass play that's going to need an extra half second, and you look to your left, and it's this new guy, like whether it's Canadian American, extremely talented, guy you picked up off the street. If you've worked with Brady Oliveira as long as Zack has now in that backfield, you want him to be standing next to you every time. So I think he probably had to battle through a little bit of, and we saw some frustration at various points in terms of pass protection, and it wasn't really offensive line related. It was receivers plussing in on the backside, or it was front side, or even in the A gap trying to pick up linebackers, where Paterson hasn't had to do a ton of that against really physical, veteran linebackers that play in the middle in the CFL. So I think he's been off kilter at times, but he's still accurate. He's still got a super strong arm. He's still got great decision making. Still creative as all hell. I think my favorite thing I love the most about Zack is just the fact that you'll go, oh, this play's dead, and then he's one of the few quarterbacks that when he gets forced to extend the play, even though he doesn't have the tremendous athleticism of a Trey Ford, he still finds a way to put the ball into the right spot or into a really interesting and creative spot where it's still safe, usually. And I say usually because it's like the, 1 out of 1,000 throws where you go, wow, what was Zack thinking on that one? But the fact that that is so rare shows the quality of player that he is, I think. So I like the way that he has kind of developed, I would say, through the first month and a bit of the season.
Yeah, that game against Edmonton, you say make plays. I just think of that rushing touchdown that he had where he rushed for more yards in that game than Trey Ford. I don't think anyone would have predicted that one. And,
but this is the great part about Zack in that running touchdown is that I am sitting at home and I'm going, okay, Edmonton's like, I've seen this script, right? Edmonton is pushing, young, scrappy quarterback, doing everything he can to stay in the game. Zack's playing pretty much lights out. And then you go, like, how is he going to break their back? I'm like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm gonna sit here on the couch in Hamilton in the Eastern time zone because I'm tired and I usually go to bed at like 9 o'clock, which makes, by the way, calling games that go until 10 or 11 very interesting. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, how's he going to do it? And then the second I saw him shift to the left, step up in the pocket, protect the football, rip through, and then all of a sudden open up and start running, I basically stood up and started walking towards the television. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. And then went to turn it off. And the second that he scored and I saw there were no flags down, I'm like, yeah, that's the game. And it's like, it was still within reach for Edmonton. And I'm like, it's not that I don't have trust in Trey Ford or that offense being explosive or being able to come back, but it was just Zack has these, I don't want to say marquee moments. They're not like Heisman moments where it's like, oh, he'll be remembered forever for that. But there always comes a point in the game where Winnipeg leans on their veteran quarterback to be the leader and to make a play. And Dave Dickinson opened my eyes to this a couple of years ago when he was talking about Levi Mitchell and Jake Mayer and kind of the quarterback controversy they were having. And he said, to win games in the CFL, you have to have your starting quarterback make 2 or 3 plays that the other quarterback just doesn't or can't. And the number of times that Zack has done that, especially in his time in Winnipeg, but really his entire career, that's why he is so good, is because when you see him make those 2 or 3 plays at the end of the game, you're like, and that's how they win the football game. So, yeah, that run, honestly, that might be one of my favorite moments of the early season because in terms of memorable, there hasn't been a ton of super close, super memorable finishes at this point, and there's been a lot of home teams winning and, favorites and Zack having to earn it and being forced to the brink and then finding a way with his legs, that was a pretty cool ending to a game that I honestly is a top 5 so far this season.
Yeah, that was a really tight one, and Edmonton hung in there for the whole game, and credit to them for bouncing back last week, getting their first win of the year. You were in the booth for one of the other games of the year. Crazy game, Hamilton 51, Toronto 38. What was it like calling that one where Bo Levi threw for 5 touchdowns, 332 yards, hit the 40,000 yard mark? Kenny Lawler 207 yards, 3 touchdowns. Multiple return touchdowns. It seemed like a crazy one there on Friday.
Yeah, it was. It was great. 2 teams that throw the football more than anybody in the CFL at this point. Nick Arbuckle's leading the CFL in passing yards, which really doesn't make sense when you think about the way that offense is shaped. It's like he's now leading the CFL in terms of completions of 30 yards or more down the field as well. Bo Levi is ringing it up to Kenny Lawler to the tune of over 100 yards per game on average, like 120 or something, I think, right now. So Yeah. I mean, at the end of the game, so whenever a touchdown is scored, I get handed a piece of paper by our stats guy that says, 6 plays, 78 yards, 314. And it just tells, hey, here's how the drive played out. And we use that going to break or whatever. And I like to leave those in front of me just as a reminder. And I'll write on them next to me, as we're in commercial break, what drive that was, who scored the touchdown, all that stuff to go with my actual prep board and all the information I have kind of ready to go, just because it's a reminder of like the flow of the game and how it's playing out and what are the storylines when we do the recap video at the end of the game from the booth. And by the end of the game, it was funny in that one because 51-38, obviously you've got kick return touchdowns, you got interceptions being made that are putting teams in good field position. You had Toronto up early, and then in 2 plays between an interception and a touchdown pass to Kenny Lawler, it's like the lead's gone. At the end of the game, I had this stack of paper in front of me that were all the touchdowns. And I looked at our stats guy, Johnny Russ, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do with all of these? And I kind of like chucked them at his feet kind of thing, because I was like, I don't need these anymore because there's too many for me to even recount, right? So, and it was funny too because, I totally botched at the touchdown call to Keandre Smith, which I feel terrible about because I hate, a guy wants to have a touchdown call on his, highlight reel forever and ever. And they line up Kenny Lawler into the boundary and Tim White over to the field. And so I'm talking about that. And then right down the chute goes Keandre Smith, high reach and grab in between coverage, unbelievable throw by Bo Levi. And at that point, I had called so many touchdowns and I had people talking in my ear. And, there's no excuse for this as a professional broadcaster, but it's like I got 7 things going on and I'm looking for the stats of this and that. And I looked down at my play-by-play board and the first color I saw was blue. And I yelled, "Touchdown Argos!" as Keandre Smith goes into the end zone. And I turned to Dwayne at the commercial break. I'm like, I've called so many touchdowns in this game, I'm actually going delirious. I was like, I've been yelling touchdown for like 90 minutes, 2 hours straight because they've just been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But it was tremendous. Like, it was a great, exciting output. I think the people that were there at BMO Field got more than their money's worth because there was drama, there was heated rivalry, it was beautiful weather, there was lots of scoring, but the defense was solid at times too. Like, there were some great sacks, great pass rush moves. I thought Julian Hauser, I think, was named Pro Football Focus's top graded player of the week overall as well, because he had another awesome game after having the previous week against Montreal, a fumble recovery and a touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, it's Hamilton and Toronto tend to bring out, for better or worse, the best of each other. And I say for better or worse because at times they can push each other to the brink mentally and cause a little bit of chaos. And in this matchup, the first of 3 they will have this year, and the next one that they'll have will be, of course, on Labor Day, and then I think they play again like October 18th or something like that. But it made us just want Labor Day to come much sooner, and for this basically the same healthy lineup of Kenny Lawler and Bo Levi and Cam Judge and on and on and on to be ready to go for that game, because it's a great matchup this year. And honestly, if Montreal falters at all, like it should be between Hamilton and Toronto to take the regular season crown and be able to get the bye and host the East Final.
Yeah, looking at these, Montreal first at 3-2, Hamilton 2-2, Toronto behind 1-4, Ottawa 1-4, Montreal sputtering a little without Davis Alexander, and Hamilton, surging with Bo. 5 touchdowns, 332 yards. Is this the best that we've seen Bo look in a Ticats uniform?
Yeah, so it was funny thinking back to, Kenny Lawler has this big game, and I thought, when was the last time I saw Bo Levi look this, like, just wide open, like slinging it with no hesitation whatsoever? And it was the first quarter of Labor Day last year against Toronto. Apparently he loves playing against Toronto. Not surprising, because he's like 15-2 career all-time or something against them, which, again, makes it even more crazy that he lost the damn Grey Cup to them back in 2017 was in Ottawa. But, being able to see Bo playing the game so free and so relaxed, I think this is probably the best that we have seen of him in terms of comfort level. And again, the evolution of this all is Scott Milanovich comes in and Bo's doing all sorts of crazy things. Scott's like, hey, your bench, Taylor Powell's in. Taylor Powell gets hurt, Bo comes back in, and Scott's like, hey, just do it my way and then I'll give you some freedom. He does. He gets back a little bit more freedom. He starts throwing it all over the park again. And then this year they come in and Scott has straight up said to us, like, we're just in a much better place, Bo and I, seeing the game the same way. Like the last year and a bit, it was just Scott trying to force Bo to see it his way and Bo trying to force Scott to see it his way. And then I think over time they've just kind of come together, met in the middle, and now there isn't really that abrasive going back and forth of, hey, do it my way, no, do it my way. It seems like they are very much like, oh yeah, I know what you want. That's cool. Like, yeah, I see it the same way that you do, and we'll go and attack the same way. So it's not that Bo doesn't make, the odd throw that makes you go, oh yeah, there's the O. But again, very much like Zack, as you become more and more of a veteran, those throws are much more few and far between. And I think the way that Milanovic has been able to shape the back end of Bo Levi Mitchell's career, Bo should be very thankful, because if he would have just been, hey, you go to, I don't know, let's randomly pick a team like Saskatchewan. Bo, you go to Saskatchewan and you're the starting quarterback, and Mark Mueller's there, let's say, as the offensive coordinator, and he's like, do whatever you want. You're the legend. I'm not going to try to do anything to change. Just be you. Bo would not be playing at the same level as he is under Scott Milanovic right now, who has said, hey, I need you to figure out how I want to do this, and then we'll work on it together and design the offense that we think can work best. So, I think he's playing at a very high level right now. It's pretty easy to see, but I'm just excited to see where it can go, honestly, between now and Labor Day, and then Labor Day at the end of the season, because, yeah, Kenny Lawler goes absolutely crazy, and it's early in the season. Is it a flash in the pan, or is this just like, well, Kenny gets one game, and then maybe next week it's Tim White's game? And then if they want to take away Kenny and Tim White, then all of a sudden Shamar Bridges has an 8-catch, 120-yard, 2-touchdown game. And then you saw the way that they played off of that on the Keandre Smith touchdown, where it's like, oh, we'll just run our great Canadian receiver right down the chute. So they've got a ton of options and weapons in Hamilton, and I'm skeptical that they can continue the pace that they're on, but I would love to be proven wrong, because I think that would be great to see in the East Division.
Yeah, Kenny Lawler leading the league in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. I said earlier in this week, maybe an very outside chance at MOP if he continues on this. Pretty tough for a receiver to get it, but I mean, leading the league in yards and touchdowns, he's just going deep, and Bo is hucking it up, and he's better than anyone at grabbing it out of the air. Their opponent this week in the game you're calling, Ottawa. What have you seen from the Redblacks, and what's holding them back? It seems like flashes at times, but they're 1-4 right now, and need a win here to keep pace in the East.
Yeah, honestly, still digging into them. So a few things that I've seen, I've watched back the first 2 games offensively for them, and it seems as though, as you say, flash in the pan, but it's also the fact that they have this ability to put together Tommy Condell drives that are sustained and look smooth and well crafted, and then there's other times where they are struggling to get into any kind of rhythm, and the pass completion rate just drops off a cliff. So that's a little bit frustrating, I think, if you're a Redblacks fan, but it's also just they fall into these lulls that even as a broadcaster are very frustrating, because I don't want to be calling a game that's like chop chop punt, chop chop punt, chop chop punt. And I love when Ottawa gets into that rhythm like they did even in the East semifinal against Toronto last year. You can see what that offense is capable of, and it's intermediate passes and Drew Brown being really accurate, but that's a really difficult way to control a football game and to win CFL football games. At some point, you got to make some explosive plays. I think that's why they got Geno Lewis. They'd be better off, too, if they had Nick Martin still in the lineup, but I think Keelan White has stepped up nicely for them, but he kind of fits into that intermediary mold of the Justin Hardys and the Braylon Addisons and even the Khalil Pimpletons that they use in the screen game. So I think they would be well off to lean a little bit less on the screen game and start pushing the football down the field. I just don't know if they're fully prepared for that yet. And again, doing that against Hamilton, I mean, Deshaun Amos is pretty damn talented on the back end. Stavros Katsantonis is a super rangy free safety. I'm interested to see what they can do against Hamilton's defense. And then for Ottawa's defense specifically, I think the major problem last year was the secondary. They just gave up way too many explosive plays down the field. And I mean, that dates back to even when Mike Benavides was the defensive coordinator there working under Paul LaPolice. But they need to be able to reharness the magic of the Lorenzo Malden, Bryce Carter, Michael Wakefield, Bless Mantel, like that pass rush up front. When Ottawa's defense has been at their best, it's because they've been able to get after the quarterback. And I just haven't seen a ton of that early on in this season. So we'll see whether or not they can do that. But Hamilton's offensive line has been rock solid this season as well, so it's not likely.
Yeah, looking forward to that one on Saturday night. And Sunday is the battle of the Canadian QBs. Trey Ford nearly perfect in the win against Ottawa last week. Is he starting to figure this out and becoming the starting quarterback that we thought he was capable of being?
What was weird about that with Trey was I didn't think that his completion percentage was as high as it was. And then you saw the final stat line and you're like, oh, and maybe that's just me like assuming that he didn't have a super efficient game, but it didn't, it was like I don't want to call it like a sneaky completion percentage or a sneaky completion streak, but he has this way of playing such of what it feels like a dangerous, volatile style of game that's so entertaining, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I would not be a fan of everybody being, 3 yards per attempt and completing 98% of their passes. I love what Trey does. It's so good for our game. But it honestly snuck up on me. It was a strange feeling to go back and go, why didn't I realize that? Is that actually happening? Again, if there was more of a pass rush from Ottawa up front last week, I think that might have changed a little bit of how Trey's game unfolded. I do think he's figuring it out, though. And what I love is that Edmonton is not pulling the plug on him. I know there's been a little bit of the swapping and drive here, drive there type stuff, but I think that they've done a good job of giving him enough responsibility and understanding that it's not going to figure this out immediately. So let's just wait this out and make sure that he's good to go for the remainder of not just this season, but like the foreseeable future in the contract that he has, and hopefully long beyond that. But I think he's starting to learn wiser ways to use his athleticism and better places to put the football. What frustrates me with Trey right now in the development of his game is running himself into sacks. I think he's taken 11 going into this week. And again, not all of those are him making a bad decision, but there's some times where the clock goes off in his head, and every quarterback has an internal clock, right? Where it's take the snap, do my drop, and then it's like, one's not there, two's not there. And if you can't go to check down or you don't find three, then you're like, well, I got to do something. I can't just stand here and get popped and lose the football, right? And Trey has this ability 9 times out of 10 when the clock goes off in his head to do something absolutely spectacular. The 10th time out of 10, there'll be an offensive tackle who's like trying to wash a guy up the field, and Trey will like spin backwards out of it and run directly into a defensive end. And you're like, oh man, like it's his feel for the pocket. I actually think of that Zack Collaros run where he stepped up and ripped through against Edmonton. It's like once Trey gets that feel of working the pocket without it feeling so sporadic, then I think he's going to be really special, because if he can shift around in the pocket and make throws from within the pocket, then when he actually does decide to like shift around in the pocket, make a guy miss, poof, now I'm free. Then when he takes off, he's not going to have to do the run backwards 35 yards, weaving in every single direction like it's a blooper reel from the 1970s. He's just going to be able to like step up in the pocket, rip through, pump, and then, go for a 25-yard run right down the middle. So, I mean, that's coming, and it's been improving, but there's no doubt that there's still a lot of growth there. But I give Edmonton a lot of credit, because I think there's a lot of teams that would have seen the start to the season and just pulled the plug and been like, nope, he's too young, he's not ready for it. He still makes these bad decisions, so we're out on all of this. But they've been patient with him.
Yeah, especially when we have Cody Fajardo there as backup, and he's looked solid in the game against Winnipeg. No interceptions. The run game, he only rushed for 6 yards on one carry, and against Ottawa, 15-17, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, no interceptions, and only 2 carries for 14 yards. His opponent in the All-Canadian QB matchup on Sunday, Nathan Rourke. What have you seen from his game as he returns to the CFL? I think we were hoping he'd be in old form, before he left for the NFL, but I think there's been some adjustments for him coming back mid-season last year, and he's definitely had some flashes with the comeback against Montreal last week.
Yeah, Nathan, what's crazy is that they both have 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They're throwing for very similar yards per game. Completion percentage is almost identical. So going into this game, I didn't mean to do this as a way to hype up the game, but when I wrote my, most outstanding Canadian watch list for CFL.ca this week, it's supposed to be a top 5, and I put Trey and Nathan tied at the top spot. And the reason for that was just how are you supposed to peel them apart from each other at this point? They're the Canadian quarterbacks who are starters in the CFL who have almost identical statistics. You could say that Nathan has been more impressive in the short spurts, but then you look at another chunk of film and it looks like Trey is significantly better. So for me, what jumps out with Nathan so far this season is when he's on, because of all the work that he does in the background, when he's on his throwing mechanics, it's incredibly simple and straightforward and easy. Like the ball just floats out of his hand. It looks like it's not even being thrown hard, and it bursts out of his right palm and it's gone. And when he's not in rhythm, his feet are just all over the place. And that's something that is pretty easy to pick up for anybody who's at home, whether you've played quarterback, coach football, never been involved with the game whatsoever, just flipping through channels on a Friday night, Saturday night. I think the BC offense can be the best in the league. Like I know I talked about Hamilton and the number of receivers that they have. Genuinely, like the Kenny Lawler, Tim White combo is great. Hatcher McInnes might be better, especially because they understand Rourke and they've been with him a little bit longer when you're talking about Lawler combining with Bo Levi. So it's been a runaway early at the start of the season for the Tiger Cats, but the BC Lions with Rourke, I think if McInnes gets more and more comfortable this season, then BC can be very, very special offensively, and they're just kind of waiting to get there. But also that Montreal defense is no joke. We know that from the last couple of years, and the way that BC just quickly went 1, 2, 3 down the field. Yep, game over, Sean White. I thought that was incredibly. When you got to go have it, that's the ultimate test to any quarterback. And Nathan still obviously has that in his game where it's like, if you need it, he's got that battle-tested soul within him. And I think he carries that into every game with BC, and that makes them feel as though they can win any game they're in.
Yeah, I loved watching him in his rookie season. So entertaining, especially at the home turf there on BC Place. Marsh, it's been so awesome having you on the show and hearing your fantastic insight on the CFL. Looking forward to seeing you on the broadcast on Saturday. So really appreciate you joining me today here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Thank you. Good to be on with you, Michael. I'll see you soon.
Huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Also, a busy week next week at Princess Auto Stadium with the Country Thunder event on the 10th, and the big concert, the rock concert involving Def Leppard and more on Tuesday. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, with 3 locations to serve you: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And I have a feeling you might be seeing some discounted Nikolai Ehlers jerseys on the shelves at Princess Auto as well, considering the news that we are about to get to. Next week, Connor is going to be sitting in, and Remo will be taking over on the program because I'm going to be out at Aikens Lake. I cannot wait to get back up there. Always the highlight of my summer. Now, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge has always had a ton of American business. And as you can imagine, with the tariffs and whatnot, that isn't quite what it has been in the past. So just talking to Pitt before heading out there next week, and he did mention they do have some availability later on this year, later on in July, August, and September. So we've got a little special for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. Hit on up, aikenslake.com. You can holler at them, but a 10% discount for any bookings for the remainder of 2025 at Aikens Lake if you mention Winnipeg Sports Talk. Keep your eyes out on my socials at Hustlerama next week. Certainly be hopefully firing out a few masters and some other great content from Aikens Lake. But right now, moving forward for 2025, WST special, 10% off bookings for the 2025 season. Find out more at aikenslake.com. And hey, shout out to the guys over at F Apparel. Wedding season's here, gang. If you need to up your menswear game, there's only one place to go, and that's 190 Smith Street, where you'll find custom suits starting at just over $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, the best selection of menswear accessories. And hey, if you are in a wedding or a wedding party, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount for the wedding party when the boys get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. It's all waiting for you at 190 Smith Street downtown. And of course, you can also check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting online at F, that's EPH apparel.com.
There's Hassan. Yes, he mentioned Aikens Lake, and as we said off the top of the show, our thoughts are with Julie and Pitt at Aikens and everyone being affected by these wildfires. Got the alert during the show, state of emergency, and here's Hustler, his photos from yesterday. They had to get evacuated out and a plane come and get them. Scary stuff. Hustler is home. He'll be returning to the show next week. Pumped to be joined here. First of all, great conversation with Marshall Ferguson. That guy, his in-depth knowledge of the CFL, pretty incredible. But one guy I'm excited to talk with, Brandon Rewucki, Skates and Plates podcast. Brandon, what's going on? 29 degrees outside. How are you staying warm here today?
Well, I'm staying warm by existing. If I'm trying to stay cool, it's just not possible right now. So
stay cool. That's right.
We'll just power through. We'll power through somehow.
Okay, first overall in the summer snack draft, what are you taking here? You got Slurpee, Popsicle, Freezy, Fudgicle, ice cream sandwich, just standard ice cream, or a cold drink. How about a cold drink? You got a favorite among those?
You know what? It's funny. For my son's birthday last month, we did this like ice cream sandwich cake.
Yeah,
I mean, you basically just stack them on top of each other. It's awesome. But I hadn't had one in forever, and I must have dummied like a half dozen in like 10 minutes. So ice cream sandwich is going to be pretty high up the food chain for me. I mean, you can't beat a Slurpee on a hot day though. I keep my Slurpee game nice and simple with I just like Pepsi. I don't really like to experiment with different flavors and things like that. And then outside of that, I love a nice cold Diet Pepsi. If I'm by the grill, an ice cold Peroni would also be in the mix there. Gelato. I mean, I'm pretty much down with anything that's cold.
It's all good. No wrong answers here. No, all wrong. All good answers here. I'm a Freezy guy. I like the mini Freezies. You get to have more flavors. I see the big boxes available of the giant jumbo Freezes. That's too much. I like to diversify flavors. I can have one, a small one, and then have another one after. Slurpee, if it's really hot out, I like Coke, Mountain Dew, Sprite. Do a large Coke and then a little sprinkle on top. Mountain Dew and Sprite. There's our summer. Oh, that's Connor. That's our summer snack talk. But for the Jets, I mean, free agency's done. We had the Taves introduction. Ehlers departing. Did a couple. What did you think of the Jets' free agency moves?
I mean, it's funny because
it's a big pause there, Brandon.
Yeah,
gathering the thoughts.
I'm trying to think of the right way to word. I mean, look, objectively, the Jets are a worse team. Like it sucks to say, but you lose somebody with the impact that Nikolai Ehlers brings, and it's tough to debate that point. But I feel like they made the moves that were kind of necessary and available to them, and I at least understand what I interpret as the team's plan going into this season is that you were able, as far as Winnipeg is concerned, to hit a free agent home run by bringing Jonathan Taves back. Yes, he's got a lot of unknowns in terms of what he's going to be like when he hits the ice. But as far as convincing a big name, regardless of age and everything going on around it, that's a win for Winnipeg. So they were able to achieve that. They were able to bring in a few guys that have, I think, some bounce back capability. They weren't going to get some of the higher end free agents available, but to get a guy like Gus Nyquist in, I can see how they might think that, in a different environment, in a more competitive atmosphere with a team that has designs on, going on a deep playoff run this year, that he's going to be a little more closer to the guy he was 2 seasons ago. And then ultimately, I feel like they looked around at what was available in both free agency and the trade market, and Winnipeg just didn't force anything, right? Like, sure, they could have spent a bit more money, but would it have made the team objectively a ton better? I don't know if there was an obvious move out there for them to do so. And so it's not ideal, and you would like to have, all your holes filled going into a season. But I do truly think that the Jets are going to take a bit of cap space, all of their assets, all of their, relatively speaking, all of their picks, their prospects, and they're going to try to address some of the issues they have with their team in season, whether that be in and around Christmas, or maybe they push things a little bit closer to the trade deadline there. But I still think this team's going to be aggressive. I don't think this is going to be the roster we see come game one of the postseason if the Jets make it there. But it was a bit of a tough blow. Like it's just difficult, and we see this in free agency all the time. Like most teams don't let these guys go to market, and they don't let them be lost for nothing. And the Jets have lost a key contributor, and they didn't get anything back for him. So they took a step back, but it's not all doom and gloom either, where they're going to go from President's Trophy to top 10 pick this year. It's just the margin for error has been reduced quite a bit for the team.
Yeah, and you look at the roster, I agree with what you said there. I think Nyquist a good buy low, and one thing that they've done is they've just signed guys to 1-year contracts. And if it doesn't work out, well, you move on next year. I think you can move on in season. If it's a guy for a 1 year, $1 million contract, you're not hamstringing yourself. And they still have cap room to sign Barron, Sandberg, and Velarde. And, they'll have a bit extra on top of that, whether it's to cover Jonathan Taves' bonuses this year, acquire someone and push the bonuses to next year. But when you look at Kevin Cheveldayoff, one thing that he hasn't done, maybe this is because it's difficult for them to sign free agents, but he's not signing guys to long-term contracts that are going to hurt you in the future. And I think you saw some of those handed out on July 1.
Yeah, I think what was the sentiment? There's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal.
Yes.
I can kind of get down, right? Like, if you're going to make a mistake, do it over the short term at least. So the Jets, I mean, yeah, they certainly mitigated any long-term damage. I mean, I wonder how much, obviously Chevy has his difficulties in convincing people to come here, but you wonder how much, what was it, the summer of 2017 when they signed Steve Mason and Dmitry Kulikov? That was Winnipeg's big, July 1 splash in their 2.0 history. And I mean, the Mason contract obviously needed Joel Armia as a sweetener to get it out of town. And then Kulikov was all right, but for the money he was paid and being on the third pair there, like, it certainly wasn't a home run move on either one of those. So you do wonder how much there is a little bit of hesitancy on Chevy to maybe commit to 3, 4, 5+ years. But having said that, maybe their biggest target was taken off the market, an hour or two before they had a chance to talk to him in Brock Besser. So there's that part of it as well, right? Where they might have had their, what they felt like was the ideal Nick Ehlers replacement ready to go, and they had a compelling pitch for him, and a 180 happened, and they didn't even get the opportunity to try to persuade him. So again, I get where they're coming from. I don't think it's an F of an off season for the Winnipeg Jets, but there's no sugarcoating it either, that they are going to have to find a way to make some external additions moving forward, because I do feel like as we sit today on July 10th, that the Jets do find themselves maybe just a shade below the top tier in the Western Conference. If you want to look at Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton, I think Winnipeg needs to make another addition or two if they want to get to that tier, like they were for a lot of last season.
Yeah, some interesting names available in free agency. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see any of these guys signed, but Puckpedia's got on their rankings Jack Roslovic, Victor Olofsson at forward. I think interesting for sure. I'm curious what's going to happen with those guys. Jeff Skinner, we just saw at Edmonton. And then, veterans, Luke Cunnin, Craig Smith. The top defenseman, they have Matt Grzelcyk. So not really much help there on free agency. I see Thomas Tatar at 34 years old. Maybe pair him and Gus Nyquist back to the old Red Wings days, but not really a lot out there, Brandon.
No, and really the Jets, where they're arguably strongest, is in like their depth players.
Yeah.
I mean, not only do you have Lambert, Cheberkov, maybe even Yeager and Barlow trying to push for a job as prospects, but this team's really, really deep organizationally, especially at forward. right? Where you've got, I mean, there's Parker Ford to go along with some of those prospects as well. But we all know the guys that are still in the mix. I just don't think any of them move the needle. To me, Winnipeg is, if they have a hole in terms of the composition of forwards that they have up front, it would be another high-end piece. And I just don't think any of the guys you listed there, barring some kind of miraculous rejuvenation or something along those lines, are going to be able to fill the void that the Jets are looking for. The one nice thing is, if Scheifele plays as well as he did last season, if Taves gives you 2C level of performance, which admittedly is a bag of unknowns right now, one of the easiest things to get at the deadline is, a solid top 6 winger. So, and they generally don't cost a ton either. There's a lot of wing help that's usually available at each and every deadline. So at the very least, with Ehlers gone, like, I get not trying to shoehorn a move in right now, because maybe you can avoid paying a premium asset to get somebody that can come in and help your team in the stretch run. So I would avoid the picking over the free agent pile that's left over the next month, and let's just see what we got at camp, see if somebody had a big summer, surprises everybody and takes a spot. And if there's holes that need to be shored up, we'll do so a little bit closer to the second half of the season.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned to see for the insiders. They're all at the lake, but I'm sure some signing will break here. We're on Jack Ralsovik watch, as he's the top name. I don't think he's going to be returning here. Toronto's been rumored, and I kind of like what Toronto has done, to mitigate the losing Mitch Marner. But you mentioned other players. Who's got the most to gain here now that Nikolai Ehlers has moved on, and they signed veteran Cole Koepke and Tanner Pearson to take over Appleton and Brandon Tanev. Who's got the most to gain from the Jets with heading into training camp?
100% Brad Lambert. I don't even think it's close. Where if he's got a massive summer ahead of him, because even taking aside the Ehlers thing, it was a pretty nightmarish season for him with the Moose last year. Like, he went from going into training camp with a chance to take a spot somewhere in the middle 6 to, he's nowhere near the top of the scoring leaders, never mind the AHL, but it was just a rough year for the Moose in general. But, Brad Lambert has, I think, always kind of been seen organizationally as a stylistic replacement for Nick Ehlers. And, when he's on, he's a pretty impactful young player. And so, like, he's got basically anything you could ask for if you're a young guy in the organization. Is that, like, there's a spot relatively open here, and you can take it. Like, that's the thing with him, with Chibrikov, and like I said, even Yeager and Barlow to an extent here. Gus Nyquist has been a great NHLer, but it's not like you're being asked to supplant Kyle Connor on the top line. Like, there's a legitimate opportunity here if you have a huge camp and a huge preseason to maybe steal something early on and make yourself a ton of money and get a ton of ice time as well. Play beside a Jonathan Taves. It's like, if I'm Brad Lambert, I would be extremely motivated, and there would be, if I don't grab that spot, it's just not because of a lack of preparation or effort during the offseason. It's just I was eventually beat out by somebody who was better than me. But I don't know how realistic the Jets' hopes are for him to take that spot. But as far as who has the most to gain, Lambert can go from struggling in the AHL to playing 15, 16 minutes a night besides a future Hall of Famer. So, it's a pretty big leap that he can take here. And it would solve a lot of problems for the Jets if he could come in and grab that spot, right? You can focus all your assets if he comes in and lights it up to potentially bringing in some size on the right side of your defense, to maybe bringing in another centerman with the unknown around Adam Lowry's injury, right? So, yeah. Lambert coming in and taking that spot would be everybody's best case scenario. How likely is it? That remains to be seen. And, I could understand people being hesitant about it. But, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people in Winnipeg cheering him on and hoping that Brad Lambert is starting game 1 of 82 next to Taves and Perfetti this year.
Yeah, in terms of most to gain, going from struggling in the AHL, I know the Moose didn't have a great season at all. Talked about it with Daniel Fink earlier this week. He had 35 points in 61 games. Third on the team behind Mason Shaw, who they just re-signed, and Dominic Toninato, who's off to Chicago/Rockford. So most, again, one guy who could take another step forward, Cole Perfetti. He's an RFA after next season. You have to think his, I don't know what his over-under point total will be or what the projection is going to be. I think he had, just pulling it up right now, I believe it was 50 points in 82 games. I would certainly take the over on that next season. Well, not over on games played because the 84 game comes into place, I think, after next season. But over under 50 points for Cole Perfetti next year.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be. I mean, as far as a successful season, I think we need to see him get into the 60s. I mean, obviously, it would be great to see him become a 70 or a point a game player, but to take another step there, they need him to. You got to find a way to replace 60 some odd points from Nick Ehlers here. And I mean, on top of that too, Adam Lowry being out, there's going to be a number of guys that need to step up, but this is the best I've felt about Perfetti's game since he's been here in Winnipeg. And even the second half of the year, you could just tell he was a totally different player. Just put the production and the points aside, you were watching somebody that was a legit NHLer as opposed to a year prior to that where it was like, I don't know if we can have him in the lineup by the time the playoffs come around. And so he took a huge step last year in showcasing a little bit of durability, a little bit more competitiveness and feistiness in some of the tough areas there. And then he scored one of the biggest goals in Jets history in the series against the Blues. So I feel great about Perfetti going into the year. And let's face it, he's gonna play a massive role on the second line because he might have to carry it for a little bit until Jonathan Toews gets a few, 10, a dozen games under his belt. So I think anything under 60 points, it wouldn't be a failure of a season for Cole Perfetti. That's a bit unfair, but it would be a little bit disappointing because you want to see him push a little bit closer to that 70 point range. And there's the likelihood that he's going to have a chance to be on PP1 as well. So I think if we're seeing him crack that 60 point barrier at some point this season, it means things are going pretty well for the Winnipeg Jets.
70 point Perfetti. I don't know. We'll have to see, where he falls in. That would be a 20 point leap there. And I'm looking at the defense, Brandon. There's a lot of bodies in there. I'm not sure how they're going to sort this out. Pionk, Morrissey, DeMello, Shen, Miller, Stan, Fleury. Sandberg's got to be re-signed. And then you still have pushing from below Elias Salamonson. And they did sign Cale Clegg as well. Oh, and Ville Heinola, too, who, he's still around. So a number of defensemen. And I think they're just going to go with what we saw to end the year, and they'll have a couple of healthy scratches on the D.
Yeah, I mean, what would lend you to believe they're going to change their approach on the blue line with the guys they have, right? I mean, they clearly think, right or wrong, that Ville Heinola is their 8th or 9th best defenseman. I mean, you could say, why haven't they moved him yet? I just don't think he has any value across the league at this point, right? He's probably a guy that's going to hit the waiver wire for them, and we'll likely see a team claim him, and we'll see if he gets a shot at the NHL level or if he has to kind of work his way back up from the A. But I mean, I just kind of envision at this point that it's a sunk cost, and the Jets aren't really going to recoup anything out of taking him in the first round in a pretty successful 18-year-old season too. I guess the intriguing part to me is kind of twofold. One would be who survives out of the Shen, the Stanley, the Miller, and the Fleury quartet there, as far as who makes that 5, 6, 7 spot in the Jets D-core. I know we always say that, it's an open competition at camp, but training camp's so short, preseason's so short that, it's tough for these guys to kind of make a major impact. And so as long as Luke Schen's still with the team, the fact that they gave up what they gave up for him, I think gives him the inside track on the third pair there. And we probably see Stanley and Schenn as this team's third pair next year. They've given every chance to Logan Stanley so far. I don't really see why they would hesitate to do so once again going into the season. The other intriguing guy, though, to me would be Dylan DeMello. Just because of the whole Florida Panthers effect, and we're seeing teams try to get bigger and bigger and a little nastier, especially on the back end. You know, it's a little tough to ignore what Florida, what Vegas, what the Blues, some of these other Cup champions have done recently, where they've got redwoods up and down their decor. And Morrissey DeMello's that's a small top pair compared to all the others across the NHL here. So I wonder a little bit about how they go about working their top pair going into next season, and how aggressive Chevy might be at making a move and pulling the trigger on that. And if it's done, is Dylan DeMello maybe surprisingly an odd man out here? But I think we all kind of know what the top six is going to look like to start the year. I know everybody's excited to see Salamonson potentially steal a job, but I mean, that's I love him as a player. I think he's got a super bright future, but the Jets historically have not done that with their defensemen, where they rush them a little bit, especially when they've got some of the NHL depth that they do have. But I got no problem with him playing 25 minutes a night with the Moose in all situations, and maybe he's a guy that can come up and be an internal addition for the stretch run there.
Yeah, and you see injuries, especially on defense. Guys block a shot or you get tangled up with someone. And I know they like to have a number of defensemen. And we've gotten down to the list certain years. There was that one year, like 2 years ago, where no one got hurt. But, guys, it happened this year. Guys get hurt and other players go in. Just around the league, July 1, was there a team that you particularly liked what they did? We've handed the Panthers the offseason champions banner for signing all their guys. I don't know if there was another team that you liked, or one that you're like, what are these guys doing, when you looked at their moves?
I mean, Carolina, you pick up Nikolai Ehlers, you pick up a top line winger basically for just some cap space, and they had so much of it that it was kind of an easy decision for them to do so. So I mean, they're obviously going to be high up there. I think Toronto did okay, considering the situation that they were in, losing Mitch Marner, but they had to, alter the makeup and the look of that team. And at the very least for them, Tavares at the number he's at is a much more palatable number. And then Nick Waugh is going to be the best third line center they've had in 10 years, pretty much since the Austin Matthews era started. So at least they've altered their DNA a little bit, and I don't think Toronto's done just yet. But I don't know. There weren't really a ton of winners because there wasn't really a ton that happened, Remo. It was just so quiet, and I think so many teams were, in a way, held paralyzed by Marner's decision, and then waiting to see what would happen with Nikolai Ehlers. Maybe the biggest loser for me might be the Anaheim Ducks. I mentioned the Blackhawks last week, so I won't go into them again, but it seemed by all accounts Anaheim wanted to make a big splash, and they were prepared to give Marner, $13 potentially $13 million a year, give Ehlers $9 million a year, and they strike on both of those guys. And then they move Zegras in a sort of a sell low situation there. So, for a team that wants to take the next step, they haven't gotten better so far. So that's a little bit concerning to me. But to me, the offseason isn't about who got better, who got worse. It's just the fact that there just wasn't a whole lot going on out there. And we've been waiting for basically any kind of semi-significant trade to happen this past week, and we've gotten nothing so far. So I wonder ultimately how much churn and turnover we're going to see across the NHL, or if it's basically going to be relatively the same league from last year going into this year. But it's just kind of a weird time because you have this explosion in cap space for all these teams, and it might take 2 or 3 off seasons for a lot of these clubs to, basically run out of cap space right now. And then maybe we see a little bit more movement. But yeah, it's I gotta be honest, it's been probably the worst off season the NHL's had in terms of excitement and off season moves that I can remember.
Yeah, everyone got cap space and just re-signed their own guys because they could. One team I wonder if they did get better. They spent a lot of money. It was the LA Kings with Brian Dumoulin, 3-year, $12 million contract. Cody Ceci, a 4-year, $18 million. Joel Armia, 2-year, $5 million. Oh, and they signed Corey Perry as well. I'm not sure if they necessarily got that much better. They spent a lot of money, and they're trying to load up to see, hey, can we finally beat Edmonton, which they almost did this past year until that ill-advised challenge was the turning point of the series. And you ask me one team I kind of like the way they're slow building this, San Jose, signing Dmitry Orlov, getting Nick Walletti off waivers, and John Klingberg. You've got some veteran defensemen, and Macklin Celebrini is going to be very strong. They're obviously nowhere close to a playoff spot yet, but I kind of like how they brought in all these veteran contracts. They have to get to the cap floor, and you're bringing some guys with experience. I think it's going to help.
Yeah, it's some pedigree there in terms of Stanley Cups being won. I mean, I'm with you where, like, look, they're not going to challenge for a wild card spot, but they were just so low before that, like, literally anybody would have helped. And that to me is what Chicago didn't do. So San Jose, look, they're not going to jump up 30 points in the standings, but you've at least brought a little bit of help to insulate your young guys. And that's exactly what they needed to do. And I think they might still make a move or two, to be honest. So, yeah, it's pretty wild, hey, that the Sharks have, my opinion, at least already leapfrogged the Blackhawks rebuild. And they've put themselves in a pretty nice spot with all the assets and cap space they still have.
The Blackhawks had so many picks. They have, 2 first-rounders next year, 3 second-rounders next year too. But, I mean, those aren't going to help you for a number of years. And how many years are they into this rebuild? And I think there was an article on Daily Faceoff saying, like, does a rebuild like a good idea? Like, Detroit's been spinning their wheels for a while. Buffalo, they tanked for Jack Eichel, and then they got the Rasmus Dahlin pick, but they're nowhere different. I mean, of teams who missed last year, I don't think they're going to make it. So we'll see what happens. I know you got to go, actually. I just looked at the time. Brando, it was great having you on. We will touch base again next week.
Yeah, and I'll get some artwork up here so people don't think I do these hits from a toilet, which...
Yeah, I brought that up
here,
to you.
But I appreciate the honesty. We'll talk soon, man.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. See ya. There he is, Brandon Rewucki, Skates and Plates podcast. We have had the odd comment or two, maybe because it's summer. I was like, I'm going to bring this up to him. People have got messages. People think that he's on the toilet doing this show. I guess, I don't know, it's because he's got that shelf beside him, the gray chair, the blank wall, the echo. People have thought that he was on a toilet a couple times. I don't know what his office area looks like, but I did say to him, I said, Brandon, people, maybe it was one guy, and I'm using people as a term, but I asked him, and he's like, wow, really? And he was kind of taken aback, and I feel bad that I brought that up, but people have wondered in our chat. Anyways, we're going to talk golf, Scottish Open, and what else is it? Blue Jays with Pat Gregoire of Coolbet. Looking forward to that conversation. Pat's going to hop in a second, but first, here's Huss.
Of course, those 19s are flying off the shelves at Royal Sports right now. Your number one headquarters for all your Jets gear and Blue Bomber gear, with tons of exclusives from New Era that you won't find anywhere else. But of course, summer's here right now. Soccer, softball, tennis, tons of bikes, running, and of course that huge Yeti cooler section for all of you campers that you definitely want to check out. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And we will be getting a tent sale coming out after the Labor Day weekend at the end of summer as well. Bomber game tonight, 8 p.m. No better place to get together with the gang to watch the blue and gold than your local Boston Pizza. Brand new summer menu out right now. And of course, those ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, nothing better to go with. Blue Bomber football, then the great taste of BP. Staying at home, you can order it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's give a big cheers to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug, before we bring in Brandon.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
There's us. He'll be back next week. I'm in the host chair. Michael Remis here. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in this week. If you've made it this far, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button to our channel, and the notification bell. Tells YouTube, hey, we're putting out some good content, and the notification bell lets you know, hey, if there's something we're posting that's, maybe you didn't know we were here and you forgot about it, it'll show up in that notification area. Pretty pumped to be joined right now, Pat Gregoire of Coolbet and his lovely bookshelf. Pat, what's going on? Thanks for hopping in. Nice talking to you here on Wednesday.
I will take having books behind me than people thinking that I'm sitting on a toilet, although I can't take credit. These are all of my wife's book, but I think maybe there's a share of 4 there, but yeah, I'll take it over the toilet for sure.
Oh, man. Pat, I asked Brandon to start. I know looking at the weather, it's 30 degrees here, not quite as hot in Toronto. I know it was a bit of a heat wave. What's your summer snack to keep cool when it's hot? I got, what are you picking? Slurpee, popsicle, freezy. I got fudgicle, ice cream sandwich, cold drink, ice cream cone. What you got here?
I think like if I'm driving around and I pass a 7-Eleven or a gas station, whatever it may be, slushy like a Slurpee's got to be the go-to. I'm a big ice cream guy though too. So any sort of soft serve, a Blizzard from DQ, I love it. The thing that I've been on lately though, it's a combination of the two. It's called the Misty Freeze. So it's a slushy with a scoop of soft serve vanilla ice cream, all kind of mixed up, and it tastes exactly like a creamsicle. That has been the summer snack of choice for the Gregoire household this summer. It's absolutely fire. Yeah, it's great.
Misty what?
The Misty Freeze from DQ. No free ads.
That's a thing at DQ?
It is. I don't know. At least in Ontario, it is. I don't know if it is out in Winnipeg. If it is, though, if it's not on the menu, just ask for a slushie with a scoop of soft serve ice cream in there, and they'll mix it up like with the Blizzard machine. Boom, there you go. Probably one of the best desserts I've ever had.
Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna Google that. Misty Freeze. That's awesome. I'll tell my wife about that because we go for ice cream too, so that's certainly on the radar. And it's 30 degrees out, but it's summer. Blue Jays baseball. Everyone's getting on the bandwagon. The 10-game win streak snapped yesterday by the White Sox. What have you seen from the Jays here over the last? Well, that's vaulted them into first place.
Well, being outside of Toronto, things can change really quickly. The sky isn't falling yet. The vibes are still super high around this team. And I think the big thing with it is the fact that it's not the big stars that are kind of driving the bus for the Blue Jays this year. It's the depth pieces. Look at the guys that started out in AAA ball that are key contributors in this lineup. Addison Barger has been a fan favorite coming in. You look at Lawler. He has been a very pleasant surprise in that starting rotation. you look at where they are, they are leading the division, and it's been a pretty ho-hum season for guys like Vladdy Jr. and even Bo Bichette has had just an okay season from his standpoint. I think you got to think, okay, some of these guys at the bottom of the lineup are going to eventually fall down to what expectations are, or maybe come to reality a little bit. Maybe not so much Addison Barger. I think this guy is a legitimate superstar in the making. But some of the other guys down the lineup, I think you can expect their bats to cool off a little bit. But if you're going to say that, then you got to assume Vladimir Guerrero is going to pick up his game. He still is an all-star, but let's be quite honest, over this little stretch here, he has not been contributing at the level that some of the other guys are. So I think when you find there, the other big thing for me as well is when you look at the AL, not a ton of teams really scare me. When you look at the AL East, not a ton of teams scare me. Yes, the Yankees are the Yankees, but they're not the same team that they were last year. I think this is a real opportunity for Rogers to get off their wallet and have Ross Atkins and Shapiro get really busy at the trade deadline, because I think they can go out, get a couple of arms for the bullpen, maybe another starting pitcher. And I think this is a team that can legitimately go on a big run.
Deadline at the end of July, if you're looking to add a piece. And firstly, you mentioned Addison Barger. This guy's become a household name now over the last couple of weeks. Second on the Jays and homers. But what are you looking to add here in the lineup? Arm, bat, what area for you?
I think it really has to be another arm in at least the bullpen, maybe even another starter as well. I like the way the lineup looks. I'd mentioned how, the depth looks really good. I just, for me, to be quite honest, when I look at this lineup, when I look at what they're doing, I'm okay. Sure, if you can get another depth piece, an expiring contract you're not going to have to, give up too much. I think that always goes a long way, but I do think the bullpen is certainly a little bit startling, even despite how well they've been playing. So I would love another arm or two, coming through at the deadline. I think a starter this season kind of, really kind of reminds me of some of the teams we saw, in the eras of the Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion, when they went out and got a guy like David Price. Like, I could see, I don't know if there's a guy out there right now that you can go out and I know there's some rumors about a DeGrom. Go out and get a guy like DeGrom. Sure, is DeGrom really the pitcher that he once was? No, but you add him into this rotation, he's certainly going to change the way that this looks. And I think he could be a guy that, the Jays could potentially look at adding. For me, though, I think it's got to be at least an arm or two, one in the bullpen, one in the starting rotation. And, unless it's a really good value add, wouldn't be worried about adding more when it comes to a bat.
Yeah, we will stay tuned, Pat, and I'm looking at the odds on Coolbet. I feel like they're not really taking notice of the Jays' win streak. Still plus 2,000, 20-1 to win the World Series. American League plus 700 and AL East plus 166. I guess the Dodgers far and above the favorite for the World Series, and you look at their roster like, oh yeah, they're pretty good and pretty deep.
Yeah, I think that's really tough to dethrone those guys when you look at their roster. You look at just the what they've done over the last couple of years. But I think when you look at value, absolutely. Maybe I'm a little bit blinded here, but 20-1 for them to win the World Series. Okay, a little bit of a long shot. Do I think this team can win a championship? Sure, probably. But do I think they will? Probably not. But to win the AL at plus 700. I think you're going to get a really good measuring stick coming out of the All-Star break. The Jays do have a series against the Tigers coming up. The schedule gets a lot tougher after the All-Star break, which I think was why some people were disappointed that they didn't continue that winning streak against a weaker opponent in the White Sox. They got a day off today, which I think will do them well. They can reset, and then they get the Athletics, then they go right into the All-Star break. So I think we're going to learn a lot about this Blue Jays team coming out of the All-Star break to see if, hey, was this just a great hot streak and a lot of these other guys start to come back to their means, or is this really a contending team or a team that can go on a run here? And I think that's going to really ultimately decide what this franchise does when it comes to the trade deadline.
Yeah, well, stay tuned. It's on every night in the summer. It's one of my favorite summer traditions, is just turning on ball. But another summer tradition, golf. Pat, it's the Scottish Open. Finished round one. Manitoba's Aaron Cockrell taking part because it's with the DP World Tour. He finished low down on the leaderboard at +3, but at the top after one round, Sepp Straka, a tie with 4 players, Jake Knapp, Nico Echeverria, and Victor Perez. Scotty Scheffler, who was the favorite, he's at 3 under, and some other names under. Victor Hovland went 4 under. What'd you see from round one at the Scottish Open?
I think we saw a lot of what we kind of expected, maybe not the big names near the top, but I think a lot of folks in the golf betting space, fantasy space, or even just, the hardcore golfers that really dive into a lot of the things pre-round. I think a lot of people who were away from it, though, kind of expected, oh, all right, this is links golf. This is a little, obviously, it's over in Scotland, so it is technically links golf, but this has a lot of the same field of like a parkland golf course that you'd see here in North America. Not quite as many bunkers. It's not really like seaside. There's only like 3 or 4 holes on this entire golf course. That is seaside as well. So the wind certainly still whips up. You still see that. You still got to be a great putter. You still got to get creative, around the greens. But let's say the fescue isn't as unforgivable as we've seen at some of these open tournaments in years past, or even at the Scottish Open here. You can be a bomber and not have to be so accurate off the tee. So that's why, guys like a Victor Hovland, Canadian Taylor Pendrith, was even a guy, Ryan Fox, the New Zealander who won the Canadian Open this year. They figured, okay, like these guys can be guys that can have some success here. But then you look at a guy like Sepp Straka, who doesn't really crush the ball off the tee, but he's super, super accurate. He's got a great iron game. And to be quite honest, when you get into any of these tournaments, you got to be able to putt well. And he was off to a great start. But Victor Hovland, I know when Haas and I always talk about our golf picks, he is usually on our betting cards. We didn't get to see who Haas was on this week, but I was on Hovland this week. And I think, I kind of don't, even though I bet on him this week, kind of don't really want him to win here, because I would love to see him win the Open next week at Portrush in Northern Ireland, because I think he is on the precipice of getting back to where he was, just a couple of years ago. And I think he's really due here for a really breakout victory for a major championship.
Yeah, just looking at the leaderboard, you see a couple of the Canadians, hanging around number one, top 20s. You mentioned Mackenzie, you mentioned, I forget if it was Pendrith. He's 3 under. Yeah, Nick Taylor also 3 under. Mackenzie Hughes is 2 under. And not far behind them, Corey Connors, even par. So the Canadians having a good showing here at the Scottish Open.
Yeah, it's I had on my card Taylor Pendrith to win this thing because of how well he hits the ball off the tee. He absolutely ropes it off the tee. He's a great putter as well. Nick Taylor, though, obviously in the mix. He's one of the best putters on tour, or at least when he is hot, his flat stick gets hot. It's another reason why Mackenzie Hughes was thought to have a good tournament here as well. And Corey Connors usually at link style courses, and I think even next week we'll see a lot of people be on him this week, even though he was only even. He is coming off an injury. He got hurt at the US Open, dealing with a little bit of a wrist injury, I believe. So we'll have to wait and see if he's fully healthy, if he can get through this round here. I still think he could possibly be a trendy pick for the British Open next week.
Come from behind and make some noise here as they bring up the odds at Coolbet.
I think we haven't relaunched the odds just yet. They should be up momentarily, but I got to assume, even though Scotty Scheffler is, four strokes back, he's probably still going to be the outright leader. That's just who you're dealing with the best player on the planet. So be interesting to see what the live odds that you can get on a guy like Straka, who is leading. I mentioned Hovland. I mentioned Fox. I already bet those guys at much bigger numbers. I think Hovland was 35-1. Fox was 60-1. But even if you've missed out on that and you can get one of those guys, especially Hovland, I think he's got the stuff. You can get Hovland at like 10-1 or lower, or higher. That's a no-brainer. Even I would play him to about 8-1 if you could possibly get him. I really think he is poised to win. I know I said I don't want to see him to win this week selfishly, because I do have a bigger ticket on him to win next week at the Open. I think that just will do a lot for his trajectory. And if you're looking at a Canadian, I know I said it, Pendrith, but Nick Taylor, man, for whatever reason, this guy just has the stones when things are getting tough. And on Sundays, he has the capability to go. And it's crazy to say, but to go with a guy like Scotty Scheffler, to go with a guy like Rory McIlroy, like I don't think he's a guy that is fazed by the big moment. A guy like Hughes, a guy like Pendrith, I think the moment could get too big. Whereas a guy like Taylor, we saw what he was able to do at the Canadian Open a couple of years ago. This guy is just a pure winner. He's a dog. And I think
Pat froze there for a second. We lost him. Just going through, talking with Nick Taylor. I do remember when he won the Canadian Open. Well, as we wait for Pat to return, I'm going to ask him about the Open Championship. It is next week. I do have to give a quick shout out. My mouse not working. Quick shout out to, sorry about that, Breezy Bend. All of our golf reports brought to you by Breezy Bend, home of this year's Manitoba Open. Think about making Breezy your long-term golf home. Contact Corey Johnson at the clubhouse or visit breezybend.ca for more info and to get on the waiting list. And also, it's the Pro-Am coming up, manitobaopen.com. Click on Pro-Am, and they're looking, is this Pat? Pat says, big thunderstorm there. Lost connection. That's okay. Go manitobaopen.com. Click Pro-Am. They're looking for golfers. 4,000 for a foursome, as I click it on right here, for a foursome. You get morning and afternoon tee times, 2 meals, play 18 holes with 2 PGA Tour America's players, unlimited on-course beverages, and all players receive a tailor-made Spider putter in support of the True North Youth Foundation. Sounds like a pretty awesome event. That putter, man, you could be singing some big putts with that thing. So Pat, his internet appears to be down, but a great conversation with him. Coolbet, promo code WST, double your deposit. The Winnipeg Gold Eyes, big walk-off win last night. They're looking to continue it tonight. Shirt off your back night, and tomorrow night, fireworks. KC in town Thursday. They'll finish off the series with Sioux Fall. Tickets 204-982 base. Again, great time last month at the WST patio party. Blue Cross Park, what a great location to host your large gathering. Assiniboia Downs, we had live racing Tuesday, Wednesday. My picks not so good, but Assiniboia Downs, they're open every day with VLTs, great dining options, free admission, and free parking. If you're planning to attend the races Tuesday, Wednesday, and select Mondays in the clubhouse dining room, enjoy the world-famous prime rib buffet and make a night of it. And Assiniboia Downs doing great work on YouTube as well. You can watch the races there. Kurt and Stretch giving you their picks. And next Tuesday, Hustler and I will continue to make our picks against each other. And it is time for the Fans First fan feedback, your best option for buying and selling tickets in Winnipeg with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Certainly the best place. You have a pair of extra seats, you're looking to sell them. I can tell you as someone who on the odd occasion has had to buy and sell tickets on Fans First, utilizing it so user-friendly, customer service is great, and you're getting paid the next day right after the game. Fans First, we know them for Jets games, but available for Bombers as well. And I was asking people, hey, what's your favorite summer snack to stay cool when it's 30 degrees out? It's your boy Bruce chiming in with watermelon. I never said it. A nice cold fruit on a hot day. And Phyllis going with the iced cap. It was, what was it? Pat was saying that Misty Freeze from DQ, and Brando was going, what did he say? Peroni by the barbecue? Isn't that what he said? Anyways, Fans First. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling tickets by fans, for fans, with no fees. Time to bring back Connor Hrabchak. Connor, what's going on? We've had some NHL news here, actually, while you've been away. What's going on, Connor? Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Yeah, some league-altering moves. No, I'm kidding. Matt Dumba was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is a cap dump. We were talking, there's trade rumors around like Jason Robertson on the Dallas Stars and all of these things because they're under the cap. Before this Dumba trade, they were negative 1.79 million under or over the salary cap, I should say, and now they'll be comfortably under that by shedding Matt Dumba's contract to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we've got some other stuff to talk about too. I want to talk to you, Remis, about the Sportsnet Plus money going up, the decentralized draft. There was a vote that hasn't been made public yet, but we got some NHL stuff to talk about here.
Yeah, and in terms, we're going to see teams trying to free up cap space. One team currently in the negative 3.73 million, the Florida Panthers. They just signed Mackie Samoskevich today to a 1-year contract for $775K. That was one of their younger players coming in, contributing. So they're 3.725 over. I do wonder if we see them make a move. I know an easy one there. Evan Rodriguez, age 31, making $3 million for this upcoming season. And the next one, he doesn't have any trade protection or anything. He's been one who's speculated to be an easy move to free up some of that space. So still some NHL trade action, and Matt Dumba being traded to Pittsburgh. But they got $12 million in cap space now and not expected to make the playoffs. Dallas, we heard so many rumors. They now have $1.96 million in cap space, and they did sign Jason Robertson. He's an RFA after this season. And they did sign Maverick Bourque. We weren't sure if he was going to sign. They did manage to get him under a 1-year contract. So no other major RFAs for Dallas. So that was kind of an expected move. But you mentioned, I see people mentioning in chat, the email today going out about Sportsnet Plus. What can you tell us about Sportsnet Plus, Connor?
I can tell you, to be the bearer of bad news, that if you were paying for an annual Sportsnet Plus subscription, it's going from $249 to $325 per year for Sportsnet Plus. And man, I think $250 was a lot for Sportsnet Plus. To go up to $325, I don't know if you have Sportsnet Plus, Remis. My family has it, and I will say, if they were making significant changes to their app, maybe this would be okay. But Sportsnet Plus is just like you click watch live on a game, and that's all you can do. You can't even watch picture in picture. You can't watch different feeds of different games. You can't watch different camera angles of different games. It's the most basic app ever. Not even talking about the glitches and the issues with the app that constantly go on. So for them to raise it from $250 to $325 who knows if they're making some significant changes to the app and really improving it. But Rogers just, got the NHL rights deal. They just paid Vladimir Guerrero Jr. $500 million. And this is how they're going to pay for it, it looks like.
Yeah, and I was always disappointed. First of all, I don't have Sportsnet Plus. I subscribe through cable to Sportsnet and TSN. I do watch on my tablet quite a bit with the if you're on Rogers here, Shaw changed to Rogers or Bell, they each have their own app, which I utilize quite a bit along with watching on the TV. But I was always very disappointed when they changed from NHL Game Center to Sportsnet Plus. Game Center, you could watch both feeds home and away. They've taken away that ability. The app doesn't work as well as it did in the past, as you mentioned. I don't think you can watch replays on there. They don't have archived games. Is there live?
They do.
Yeah.
But like in the Jets case, if it's a game on TSN, which is like the majority of their regional games, you can't watch it until like 48 hours later when the Jets have already played another game by then. So it's like, I don't know. Like there's no features. There's no features on Sportsnet Plus. What is the feature? You click on the game and you watch it and that's it. There's nothing like, they had picture in picture at one point and they took it away. I remember getting in an email like battle being like, where's picture in picture? I want to watch 2 games at once. And they're like, oh, we're working to bring it back. It still has never come back. I don't know. I haven't checked recently because there's no NHL hockey, but I don't get it. There's no features. You click on the game, you watch it, and that's all you can do on Sportsnet Plus. And they're charging $325. It's ridiculous.
So yeah, that's $27 a month on average. They did lose WWE, right? Because that went to Netflix. That was in there before. Yep. But you get the baseball, you get the hockey. I mean, for cable, I just have TSN and sports. I don't have any other premium channels, but you piece together all these services that you need, prices going up. I do see a lot of people mad online. And the Jets, they're in a situation where they're on TSN. And I think if you're out of market, they don't even have the TSN broadcast. Is it?
No.
Is it they're showing the other one?
You need to be, like if the Jets are playing on TSN, which like I said, is the majority of their regular season games, you can't even watch it through Sportsnet Plus. You then need TSN Plus or TSN on cable to watch the Jets and Dan Robertson and Kevin Sawyer and that crew that has the majority of the games. So you're really paying for out of market NHL games and the Blue Jays and whatever else is on Sportsnet. I mean, they carry some NBA games, some Raptors games throughout the year. That's what you're paying for. But again, there's no features. You're just paying to watch the games, and it's way too much now. It's too much at $250, and it's even more so too much at $325, in my opinion.
Something we'll keep an eye here. The media landscape changing. Don't forget Prime Monday Night Hockey back for another season. So the Rogers, they got the new hockey deal, the new Vlad contract. Easy increase is to the Sportsnet Plus. And we did have some other hockey news that came out during that conversation. Cam Robinson, who we had on this program, with the early indications of Taves coming to Winnipeg. Check out this tweet that you sent me. He says NHL GMs have now voted on re-centralizing the draft. I don't know if there was their meeting in July 10, or is this via text, conference call, Zoom? While the league has yet to alert teams to the final results, it appears the majority have voted to keep it decentralized. If that holds, what a miss. So we'll wait and see what this means. We thought this was going to be a one and done thing. What do you think of this tweet here from Cam?
I agree with the final sentence. If that holds, it's a massive miss, and they'll have to make some significant changes to the decentralized draft to improve it. I mean, it was their first go at it. I'll give them a pass for it taking way too long and the awkward Zoom interview with the players when they would walk to the separate room and talk, and there'd be that awkward pause. Like, I don't know. It was very awkward. It felt very forced. And it was again, like I said, it was their first time doing it. So I'm willing to give the NHL a pass on that one. But going forward, if the decentralized draft is going to hold, A, I don't like that decision. But B, there's going to have to be some significant changes to speed up the process, make it less awkward, maybe less Gary Bettman when you're watching the draft. But I don't know. What do you think, Remis? I don't like that. I'd like to see them go back to what it was before.
I didn't think that it was like that. It wasn't centralized. That wasn't everyone there. I don't think that part was that bad. What was bad was that it took forever. Like, they didn't need to have the team meeting the player in that room there and have their first meeting after they got picked. It was kind of weird. Like, you're not doing that. You're not doing that when everyone was there. So why are you doing it? Because you can. And again, not all the teams had great setups as far as camera and microphone. I give credit to the Jets. The Jets, they had Chevy with a real microphone and a real camera there when they picked Sasha Boumediene, and when he did his post-game Zoom, he was really in really good quality. It wasn't like some of those other teams. So credit to them. There's obviously some tweaking, but no other team does it with everyone there. I guess if you're a first-round pick, you know you're going to go, it would be kind of cool, but I do wonder if people begin to show up. It was kind of nice having everyone there. I'll have to wait and see before we finalize our plans. Hustler and I went a couple times. I went to the draft in 2011 as well. But, I mean, if you're going after the first round, what's supposed to be cool to get called up, put on the jersey? Kind of sad that's not what it's going to be anymore. I'll reserve judgment until it's final, but Cam's not putting stuff out there if it's not true. So they got to fix. It was too long, and I don't think it was too long because no one was there. It's because they picked a bad format.
Yeah, I agree. It was way too long. I was sitting there, and it was like 9 p.m., and I was doing the math, and I was like, I don't know if the Jets are going to be picking by midnight. Like, this is taking forever. Because, again, player gets picked, then they go up, they take the photo, then they go to this awkward Zoom meeting, then they do an interview, and then the clock is starting and the other team's picking, but they're taking the whole clock. It's like this, it took way, way, way too long. It was too clunky. But yeah, I mean, you can make significant changes, improvements. If it's going to be like this going forward, it'll be different next year. I have faith that they'll make some changes and maybe listen to a bit of the feedback, because the NFL does it this way, and the NFL draft is a big thing every year. I know the NFL is like the gold standard in terms of the major sports in North America for a lot of these things, especially the draft. But, you know, you see all the players hugging Roger Goodell. I don't think Gary Bettman has the same rapport. I don't think, like, the NHL, you've grown up at least, you know, thinking of being at the draft and being picked by the GM that's there and taking a photo with the GM, or at least putting the hat on, putting the jersey on. They still did that, but now you're with just Gary Bettman up there. It was clunky. It was awkward. And I think they'll make some changes next year and cut out the players doing Zoom interviews on the floor and talking to teams through these, you know, like 480p webcams and bad microphones. Like that didn't need to happen. I don't know why that idea was there in the first place. And hopefully they listen to some feedback and change it up for next year if it sticks. But I really hope it doesn't. Yeah,
make it go quick. Well, it is amazing because the NFL draft, I mean, it's never been a big deal that the teams aren't there. And so many people, was it Green Bay? It's like a massive event. So I'm sure the NHL can figure this out, but whatever they did last year, it took too long. You know, it should be like 2 hours for round one. Figure it out. I'm sure it seems like they're going to. And it is a big draft, as we said. Gavin McKenna projected to go number 1 overall. I don't want to say, I don't know, generational, but gets thrown on too much. Very, very highly touted prospect.
There you go.
I'll say. So we do have some interesting hockey news here as we wind down the show. We'll hit up the Coolbet lines, Connor. Here we can look at the CFL for this upcoming week, and let's see if there's been any movement. Rough Riders now -5.5. I think it was -5 all week. Hamilton, they're -5 at home against Ottawa, and BC's -3 on the road in Edmonton. Any game you're eyeing this week?
Yeah, I mean, the closest game in terms of spread is that BC Edmonton one. And I think that's one of the ones, you know, I talked earlier about how I'm, you know, intrigued by Calgary and Saskatchewan in terms of, is Calgary legit? Saskatchewan coming off the bye, still undefeated. But that BC Edmonton game, like BC got a little lucky last week beating Montreal at the buzzer and that miraculous comeback. And then they're coming off the, you know, they were fighting after the game and their head is maybe not in it. Edmonton coming off their first home win. Don't let them get hot at home. We'll see, but I'm very fascinated to see if Edmonton can follow that up. And Trey Ford, I mean, you talked about it with Marshall Ferguson. He played fantastic in that win last week. So looking to see if he can follow that up. The Canadian QB matchup, always good in the CFL. So that game Sunday night, closest spread of the week. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, 3 divisional games, 1 Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 teams on a bye, so you only get 3 games. And looking at the futures, and there's the Bombers plus 375, to win the Grey Cup. Alouettes are the favorite, plus 240. BC plus they're 10-1. Calgary 12. Edmonton 50-1.
Calgary's
to win.
still low. Like Calgary
they're 3-1
before the season. Yeah, Calgary before the season was by far at the bottom, like the longest shot, and the books still haven't really come around. They're still not really believing, and that's part of why I'm intrigued at this game Friday night between them and Saskatchewan. If they can go into Saskatchewan and beat the Riders, like you have to take them seriously at that point, right? So, Calgary's still below like Hamilton and BC, two teams that have had their ups and downs to start the year. So that's interesting to me, and I'm looking to see if Calgary's legit.
Yes, and then baseball. No Blue Jays, as Pat said, they're off. And number of games. I'm eyeing this Mariners-Yankees series. Yankees have been spanking them around. That's basically a pick 'em. I do like tuning into the late games. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, he'll be joining me tomorrow. His Padres plus 103 against Arizona. I don't think there's odds on the home run derby yet. Nah, I don't think it's yet, but we will. It's on Monday, so we'll be discussing that on Monday. I can't believe the favorites here for both MVPs. Ohtani, who's pitching and hitting now, minus 1,667. That's obscene. And Aaron Judge minus 15. Like those are just crazy favorites. So maybe you can find some value if one of those guys gets hurt or something. Yeah. And Cy Young, not close really either. Skubal in the AL. He should win. And Zach Wheeler, who's had some great games, and Paul Skeens, they're the two favorites. And I've never seen two favorites like in the minus. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Paul Skeens' stats, I like looking at them every now and then because he's got a record of 4-7, and his ERA is 1.94.
Yeah, he's one of those.
Get that man some help.
Yeah, he's a great, the best pitcher on the worst team. And I think the joke was his wins above replacement is higher than his actual pitching wins that he's earned. That's a joke for all the advanced stats guys out there. We're waiting on Scottish Open. We talked about it. Those odds haven't been updated. I think the Open Championship, yes, Scotty Scheffler, the big favorite. That's next week's tournament. So maybe Tommy Fleetwood could finally win. Let's see some Canadians on there. Let's see Nick Taylor, if you like him. I don't even see him on the list. No, maybe he's not in. I'll leave the golf picks to Huss. That's his department. Anyways, Connor, we did have some hockey news at the end of the show. We talked Jets, talked Bombers at the bye, but it's been great having you back. Glad you had a great time at Coldplay. I never asked you, what's your go-to summer treat here to cool off? It's 30 degrees out.
I'm a big Slurpee guy. I mean, we're in the Slurpee capital of the world, are we not? I mean, it's so hot. Brandon was saying he keeps it simple with just the Pepsi. I like to, go 3 different flavors, and sometimes it burns you because like 2 will bleed into one another and it tastes awful. But it's high risk, high reward. I'm a big Slurpee guy. I like to get a lot of flavors in there. And then there's the gas stations, Remo, that have the ice cream. That is a game changer. You get the Slurpee ice cream Slurpee. Man, that is money on a hot day like today. I might get one on my way to this Country Thunder concert tonight that I'm going to at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, they're sending out the notifications. Everyone bring water, stay hydrated. And I just learning about mixing ice cream and a Slurpee with this Misty Freeze now at
life
DQ.
changing.
I never heard about this, but as I said, I'm a Pepsi Mountain Dew Sprite guy. I used to love strawberry limeade. That was a flavor. I haven't seen it for a while. It's something like that I'm always into. But yes,
nice.
Misty Freeze ice cream and Misty slush blended. I might have to try that. I'm in. Anyways,
sold.
Anyways, Connor, have a great time tonight at the concert. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll look ahead to CFL week 6 starting out and NHL offseason as we're seeing. We just talked about it. The draft could still be what we just witnessed for next season. So for Connor Hrabchak, I'm Michael Remis. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Like this video for more great Winnipeg sports talk content. Again, for both of us, talk to you tomorrow. See ya.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.